Hello, this is Jan Eggenfeller at Viking Aircraft Engines. I'd like to do this video because there seems to be a lot of misunderstanding outside of the Zenith community about what Viking does and the engines that we have and that we provide. This particular video is going to be very kind of direct towards what we know at our company, dealing with customers and so forth, and it's going to be about putting Viking engines in the RANS S-21 aircraft. The S-21 is the engine that's in this airplane was put in by our friends down in Titusville here in Florida, and the airplane has now been flying and it's building the first 40 hours, and it's been a huge success. So why is it that we sell 90% of our engines to Zenith builders and relatively few to RANS builders? Well, let's look at the upcoming year and the possibilities that are there. Starting out with the willingness by Zenith to have different engines in their builders' aircraft. Their customers are building their airplane kits, and these people are free to put any kind of engine that they want to into their airplane, and it's encouraged by Zenith because they are a kit manufacturer. They don't get involved too much with what engine goes in the airplane, so forth and so on. So why are other companies seemingly less open to this and somewhat reluctant to it? And what are the obstacles for the builders of the RANS S-21 as far as being able to use a modern Honda engine in their airplane? Let's look at the history of auto conversion engines. How far they have come now, the success of these engines is somewhat, there's some knowledge lacking outside of the Zenith community. The reason I talk much about the Zenith community is because it is a warm and welcoming place. If you are building a Zenith cruiser, a Zenith stall, low wing, a high wing, doesn't matter. You're welcome to use one of the Viking engines, and in fact, what used to be an alternative engine for those airplanes is now a primary engine, and more people are choosing the Viking 135 or the Viking 150, or for the 701, the Viking 90, or even the Viking 195 for the new Super Duty airplane than any other engine. So we feel it's obviously for our own company's sake and also for builders' sake that people should be allowed to choose on their own, and that we do have an obligation of educating builders of what they can have with a Viking engine in their airplane. So let's talk about that. Right now there's a lot of S-21s being completed by builders across this country and all over the world. When they contact their support center, which would be a RANS aircraft, they will be discouraged from using anything other than what is factory approved. The factory approved engine when the airplane first came out seemed like the Rotax 912, the Rotax 915, and the Titan, I think it's a Continental Titan engine, now controlled basically by China, by Beijing. It's owned by them. Seems like the 915 kind of disappeared off the website. I'm not sure, but it just seems like it's hard to find information on that. I think that engine was very complicated and it didn't offer much performance up and beyond the Titan engine. So as a recommendation, and I'm not speaking for RANS because I know nothing about what they do and what they recommend, but I do know that it seems like that engine disappeared, which kind of would be in line with my thinking, because when I was at Oshkosh a couple of years ago and I saw that engine installed in another airplane, it was introduced, it was extremely complicated. You would get a certain amount of performance, a certain amount of horsepower. It was somewhat limited. The benefit of the power would basically be at altitude, and a lot of money. Spare parts was really expensive, like an ECU, $6,000 to $8,000. So I was looking at it as an engine designer and saying, "Whoa, this is complicated stuff. Is this really going to go into home-built planes?" And that was what I was feeling. And it seems, from what I've talked to people at the air shows, different manufacturers and even gyrocopters and things like that, they're shying away from it and they're going with other engines. So what are other engines? Well, back to the S-21, which is what this video is about. There's not a lot of choices as far as other engines. Certainly not a lot of choices as far as, an engine with a firewall forward package that has flown and is now bringing, actual numbers to the community. So I looked at the performance, and the 912 is pretty much out, because I don't think anyone's going to, well, I'm not going to say that anyone will not be, but okay, let's speak for me. I would never put, of course I'm a Viking guy, but even if I wasn't, I wouldn't put a 912 in an S-21. There's an airplane that has a V&E upwards of 200 miles an hour, and so why would I want my cruise speed to be 104 miles an hour? It just doesn't make sense to put that much time and effort into building that capable airplane, and then not put a power plant up front that's going to give you even near the performance of what the airplane was designed to do. So then there's the Titan engine, which is basically an air-cooled traditional engine, an experimental version, I believe, of traditional engine, 180 horsepower. Those engines are good engines. From what I understand, they're really hard to come by. They are expensive, really expensive. They're just as efficient as a modern, Honda engine, because in airplanes you do have the time to lean peak of EGT. You can lean it out to the point where you get good efficiency out of the engine. And then also air-cooled engines have good efficiency just because they run somewhat hot. They're thermally efficient. So there's, why would you not use it? Well, it is expensive. It's not really that available. It's a little scary knowing that, something that used to be readily available in this country, like parts for those engines used to be dime a dozen everywhere. Everybody could work on these engines. That's all disappearing. The parts availability is not there. Engines are down for a long time. New engines aren't available. Long waiting lists, and so forth and so on. And these aren't like sales things. These are actual factual things, which speaks a lot about our engine. Of course, we have 195 horsepower too. My feeling, and you'll see after we show a video about performance, that you can be really close to the Titan performance with the 150 horsepower without the turbocharger and intercooler and all that. A little simpler engine, maybe less maintenance and all that. Now, of course, if somebody wants the bigger engine, it's available. My recommendation will be the 150, and I'll show you when I fly the airplane. These engines are fuel efficient. Like I said, maybe not more so than a Titan engine. Parts, on the other hand, are available everywhere. I'm not saying you should go down to Advanced Auto or Napa and buy parts that are made in questionable countries and stuff like that. But even if you did go to Honda, or you went online and bought Honda parts, it will be there the next day. A starter, a coil, whatever you possibly could need would be there. And so then people, sometimes you hear, Not so much from the Zenith community, because we kind of all support each other. But there will be all kinds of reasons, you know, like if you're building an S21 and you go on a forum and you're trying to defend your decision to use this engine, you'll hear it all. You'll hear it all from being like, you know, a black sheep that they're not even going to sell you parts to that you're on your own and there's nobody that can help you and that your airplane's going to be worthless, and it just goes on and on and on. Of course, with the Zenith community, that's completely has reversed itself. The airplanes that have the Honda engines are the easiest to get sold. They carry, you know, they have good resale value. They perform better than any other alternative Zenith airplane. So there's a lot to be said about, you know, using the engine, and there's a lot that used to be the same way with Zenith. You know, we were the underdog. We were like the alternative engine and all that, and that has all changed. We sell, like I said, we sell more engines to the community than anyone. Now let's go and talk a little bit about this 150 horsepower engine that we installed in Kathy and Bob's airplane. It's a great little engine. It's simple. It's inline 4-cylinder. Like I said, you can get parts anywhere. The initial purchase price is very low. Variable pitch propeller is available. You can cruise anywhere from 4,000 to 5,700 RPM, so you have a huge range, whatever, you know, whatever power band you want to put the engine in. I'll probably do a flight later today. We'll include that on this video. And I was thinking about kind of just doing a flight to show flight envelope. And again, you will have people pick that apart, and it's no good, and it's this and it's that, and you know, it's 5 knots slower than the 180 horsepower, and but you have to put everything into perspective. It's not all about the last 5 knots that you'll never use anyhow. It's about, you know, total cost, efficiency, quietness, being able to go cross country reliably, with some kind of assurance that if you need a part, you can have it immediately. And there's lots of reasons, pros and cons. But it is factual that the 150 horsepower Viking Honda engine is available. It's available the next day. Hundreds of thousands of these engines are being made by Honda all the time. So it's a whole different community than working with a particular engine that, you know, if you had an issue with the crankshaft or you had a prop strike or something happened to it, you are in a world now that it is almost impossible to get the airplane back in the air unless you have 6 months to sit and wait. Nothing wrong with the performance of the airplane. It has all the performance that you could ask for, you know, so that's not an issue. The cost, like I said, is not an issue. Parts available is not an issue. Who can work on it? You can work on it. Any auto mechanic can work on it. They're simple to work on. You know, is Viking going to be around? Yes, we're going to be around. We've been around for many, many years. I've been doing this for over 30 years. Me and my wife do this together now. Is the Chinese-owned company is going to be around and sell parts? Who knows? Is Rotax going to be around as far as, you know, is there enough airplanes for them to continue this? Who knows? You can ask that about any company. Is RANS going to be around? Are there people retiring there? Who knows? So those are hypothetical questions, and they are not, you know, it should not be like a determining factor if somebody should select one engine or another. Let's take a look at this particular installation. Actually, we're going to put that in a different video, the installation of the engine. And it's not going to be quite as detailed as with the Zenith airplanes because we already have all that. We have a video showing, you know, how to install your fuel system that comes with the firewall forward, how to do your electrical, how to put the propeller on, how to mount the engine, how to mount the engine mount. So we have individual videos of all those topics. Now, granted, every airplane is slightly different, and so those are the things that we're going to be putting into a video about this particular airplane, or the differences, you know. Watch the fuel installation video. However, this airplane has 2 tanks and inlets and outlets over here, and you're going to put a header tank over here, and so we're going to talk about that, but you're going to mostly be using the videos that have already been made. All right, let's show a little bit, or show and tell a little bit about the engine and the cowling, and just kind of like that part of it, and then we'll go and fly, and hopefully, you know, you'll be impressed. We've done a lot to make the airplane as efficient as possible and as quick as possible, and we've flown it quite a bit now, and it's been a lot of fun. I also want people to understand that performance in an airplane, and I'm not saying most people don't know this, but it just seems like when you watch something, people get really focused and fixated on maximum speed at some altitude. But performance is, you know, it is everything. It's how well does it start, how quiet is it, how easy is it to operate? Do you have to, you know, move a bunch of handles or just one throttle? You know, is fuel inexpensive for the engine? Does it have low maintenance as far as, you know, a nice setup, the way the engine is designed, and stuff that doesn't break all the time? And so under hood temperatures, can you dive the airplane to the ground without shock cooling? There's tons and tons of things that go into performance that are not just, you know, what's the maximum speed at 8,000 feet. So, all right, let's taxi out and do a flight with the 150 horsepower engine in the S21. All right, so we do have a camera on the EFIS, so that's pretty much all you guys are going to see. But we're going to take off. We're going to climb to 7,500 feet, normal cruising altitude. Then we'll level off, and we'll just let the airplane accelerate at that RPM. And then we'll try like a couple of different RPM settings with reduced power. And after that, we'll do a descent, max effort descent, to watch the coolant temperature, and kind of show you how you can do that in a liquid cooled engine without worrying about shock cooling. And so the trim is set, both batteries are on, fuel pumps are on, ECU is obviously on. We're going to do 0 flaps, and we got about 32 gallons of fuel in the airplane. Massey traffic, experimental departing 18, any traffic, let me know. So we're going to go up to 7,500 feet. And we'll set it up somewhere around 85 on the indicated. And everything is knots in this airplane. And we're just going through 1,000 feet. It looks like our camera mount is holding. It was kind of sliding a little bit there earlier, so I had to reset it. Okay, so we got 5470 RPM. Coolant temp is
Oh, that's behind this other menu here. Alright, 207. Oil temp we never really use. This airplane has it, but we're not concerned with that. We're concerned with oil pressure. It's 90 pounds of pressure. Gearbox is at 170 right now. We got 14 gallons per tank. That seems to always read a little low. I think there's more like 16 in each tank right now, and 2.5 gallons in the header tank. We're using 10 gallons an hour, so we're approaching the 150 horsepower. Not quite there though. We'd have to have the RPM up a little bit more to get the full horsepower. In any case, passing 2,000 feet, and as you can see on the map, flying over the intercoastal in Florida. Nice day here. It was like 80 degrees today. I don't know, now it's maybe 75. As you can see, the radiator system is working good at 209 degrees right now. Oh, close down the vent a little bit. We also have a nice heater in here. Not so sure we will need it. Maybe put it on low right now, just so as we get up to 7,500, I'm sure it's gonna eventually feel it. Up is low. Still climbing at 5,500 RPM. Oil pressure is 82, 208 on the coolant. We can see the NASA building, quite visible from where we are, going through 4,000 feet. I've been enjoying flying this airplane over the weekend here. Kathy and Bob did a wonderful job building it. I don't have too much experience with the Dynon avionics. We have other stuff in our airplane, but it seems very, very nice, very professional. Okay, so we're coming up on 5,000 feet here. Oh boy, that's hot. We're going to turn that heater off for now.
Airport, good answer, right downwind, 18, right downwind, 18, Matthew.
Hey, John and Viking, that looks good. Alright, so we're shadowing over the one screen here a little bit. with the suction cup that holds my phone for the camera. But we got another screen, so let's see what we got over here. We got voltage. Each battery is 14.1, so that's good. Coolant is still 208. Oil pressure is 79. Fuel pressure is 46, that's perfect. So everything's going really good, and we're going through 6,000 feet just like that. So when we get up there, we're just going to push the nose over. There is an autopilot in this airplane. Let's hit the button on that and see if it'll hold it level. And we'll let it accelerate a little bit. Let's we'll turn inland a little bit here. And once we do that, I figure we're going to try, this 5,400 RPM. That's kind of like a Rotax RPM. And see where our speeds ends up, and then we'll dial it back to, like 4,800 is a good setting, and then we'll go down to 4,000. So we'll try like 3 different RPMs, and we can note the fuel gallons an hour. See, we've lost some power. We're up to 7.6 gallons an hour. Now I'm turning, so I'm also dropping the nose a little bit. There we go. So we're still doing 80 knots now, 750 feet a minute, and we're coming up on 7,000 feet. We're going to go to 7,500. We're passing 7,300, 750, 800 feet a minute climb, 80 knots. I think we averaged like 800 feet a minute coming up here. All right, let's push the nose over. That's 7,500.
Autopilot.
Alright, so we're leveling off. Let it balance out a little bit here. We'll see what she does. We've got 23 inches or 22.8 inches of manifold pressure up here. About 5,500 RPM. We're using 7.7 gallons an hour. So true airspeed is what we're going to be using. That's the only thing that really shows the performance. Or so right here, we got 123 knots, 124 knots. All right, so let's dial in some, take away a little bit of power, get some the RPM down. Let's do it like 4,800. Well, since we're here, why don't we do 5,200 first? Might as well. We'll get another set of numbers. So at 5,200, fuel dropped to 7 gallons an hour. Got a headwind. Ground speed is 10 knots lower than the true airspeed. Under 20 knots. Let's go down to 4,800 RPM. Alright, so when we did that, went down to 6.6 gallons an hour. Didn't really lose too much on the airspeed. We're still doing 119 knots true airspeed. But before we lower it
Traffic.
anymore, let's turn around
Autopilot. Disconnect.
and then we can try the 4,400 RPM and then 4,000 RPM. Those would be 2 more data points. It's a nice little cross-country airplane.
Autopilot.
Alright, so that's the RPM we had before. Drop it down to 4,400. Now keep in mind the Rotax 912, which originally, you know, these airplanes were made for. True airspeed now would have been 104 miles per hour, I believe that was. Now it must be knots, so let's check that out when we get down. In any case, so we're at 5.6 gallons an hour. We're pretty level. Coolant is 198 degrees. Oil pressure 78. Fuel pressure 47. Still got 14 and 13. As far as fuel, 2.5. We've got 14 and 12 now. 2.5 in the header tank. So we're down to 5.7 gallons and we're doing 110 knots. Alright, let's back it off to 4,000 RPM. So we're just kind of loafing around. We've got 4,000 on the engine. Autopilot's working on getting us level. Alright, 5.2 gallons an hour, 105 knots. Alright, let's pull some power, and then we can descend down to 1,000 feet. We'll turn around and do that. And so the coolant is at 198 right now. We'll see what it is as we descend. You know, with a
Autopilot.
engine like this, you don't really have to worry too much about, or at all, about shock cooling, because you've got a thermostat built into it, and the air that goes over the engine block, it really doesn't harm you at all. The radiator is what controls it. Another nice thing about this engine is it doesn't really, you know, it doesn't need an oil cooler. Oil temperatures run higher than what most people are used to seeing, but you don't really concern with that with synthetic oil. You're concerned with the oil pressure. You know, the synthetic oil can take a lot of temperatures, 300 to 400 degrees easy. And then as long as your pressure is good, everything's fine. Alright, so we're descending at 3,500 feet a minute. 145 on the trigger speed. Coolant temperature is 187. Yep, 184 coolant temperature. And we're doing 4,000 feet a minute now. Trigger speed 143, indicated 136. And we'll level off at about 1,000 feet. And then we'll do our speeds in reverse as far as the RPM. And we'll see what we get at a lower altitude. Alright, coming up on 1,000 feet.
Autopilot.
Alright, so 650 feet. And we're at 4,000 RPM again. Manifold pressure is 29.9.
Autopilot. Disconnect.
We're using 6.9 gallons an hour.
Autopilot.
Yes, our coolant temperature is 198. That's what it was at higher altitude. So that part's very stable. We actually had a TFR here a couple of days ago. Elon was shooting something up for NASA. Alright, so let's start getting some numbers at 650 feet over the ocean. We are burning 6.9 gallons, and we have a true airspeed of 112. So let's bump the RPM up a little bit. Got 4,400. And our fuel flow went up to 7.5, 7.4. And the speed went up to 115. Let's go to 4,400 RPM. I mean 4,800. Our fuel flow went to 9 gallons. And our true airspeed settled at about 120, 122. Equivalent to the colon is 202.
Autopilot disconnected.
Now we're going to take it up to 5,200.
Autopilot.
Alright, so we're at 5,200. We're flying north this time. And our true airspeed, everything settles down. Four, 205 on coolant, 81 on pressure, oil pressure, 125 knots on the speed. Let's bump it up to 54. We're up to 10 gallons an hour, 10.2. That's 127 knots. Indicated 126 true airspeed, 132 ground speed. So you can have whatever you want, you know, you go to a little higher altitude altitudes and the fuel flow goes way back down. And the efficiency, of course, goes up. Now we're down close to sea level. And we got the power to make the speed, but obviously at a cost of burning fuel. That was a nice flight. Hope you enjoyed it. And we'll put this on YouTube with some of the talking we did earlier.
Autopilot. Disconnect.
Got traffic in sight. Matthew. Come clear the active 189.
Looks like we got the dogs waiting for us in the window.